So that's pretty much what I've learned, how to be a better person with the people that are around me in the industry that you guys are dealing with and the headache you guys are getting or having.
Before we get started with the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Global Training Center. As trade compliance professionals, you want to make sure that your procedures and documentation are completed as correctly as possible to avoid any delays and possible fines. We provide a range of trade compliance courses that will fit your needs. From in-person or web training to recorded on-demand courses, we can train one or even thousands on your team through your learning platform or on our portal. We can even customize a private session for your team. Go to globaltrainingcenter.com to find out more.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Simply Trade. Okay, so I'm going to mess this up because I usually do my introduction as Simply Trade News Roundup. This is not a news roundup, but I'm still here. So Lalo actually invited me to come on here as well. So I'm pretty excited to be here, and because this is a special moment, right, Lalo?
Yes, it is. And so last week, sometime I was looking at our stats and our everything on our dashboard, and I realized that we had a few shows before we hit 300. And so I told Anna, we got to get some folks together. And so we put out the message out on LinkedIn, and thank you all for replying. So we got a few of you in here, and so we're calling this our listener show or a fan show. So I actually wanted to call it something different. I was thinking I was out for a walk yesterday, and I was thinking maybe we can. So I know you probably don't know who this is, Anik, but maybe I know. Blair at least will know, but there used to be a singer called Barbara Mandrell.
Ouch.
Whatever, right? She was a Taylor Swift back then, okay?
I'm sure she wasn't.
She was amazing, Barbara Mandrell. So anyway, she used to have a song called "I Was Country Before Country Was Cool," right? Do y'all remember that song? Maybe not. So maybe the show is going to be I was a trade geek before trade geeks were cool. Okay. So anyway, maybe that's a working title. Okay.
This one.
That's a working title. But anyway, so Annick.
Yeah, nevertheless, we're at our 300th episode. This is the one, and we're so thankful to have cool people on. Andy is coming on right now, which is beautiful as we speak. And just kind of discuss what's going in a trade expert's life, really, and how has the recent months has affected them, as well as what do they like to hear on the podcast and how did they get started, and just kind of a roundtable. This is not too serious of a podcast, which maybe mine never is, even though I have some very serious people on there that I get to talk to, but. Yeah, I mean, we're so excited and just want to introduce, first of all, Andy, do you want to say anything to start off?
Hey, folks, I am sorry. I got delayed. I was on the road, so I'm going to be taking this from my truck here and all that. So, hey, thank you so much for y'all joining us.
Yeah, I was going to say, by the way, Andy is now a trucker, as you can see. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, if you're a trucker, you better pass the English test because there's a new EO that got put out that truckers now have to
do all English testing.
Do an English test, which there's another topic that we'll get into in another episode. I'm excited because we need to obviously get to the meat of the episode, which is our trade experts or trade professionals or trade beginners or non-trade people that are on the podcast. So let's begin with, because this is like kind of interesting. We have a non-trade person on the podcast. Why is he even listening to this? Please tell us, Blair. Please, introduce yourself. What do you do?
Well, I'm Blair, obviously. I stumbled into this because at the time I had a couple medical hiccups and had to be driven to appointments, and Carrie was nice enough to be driving me to my appointments, and she would always listen to your podcasts. When I was able to drive again, I was like, I missed them. So I kept, listening, and I actually went back to episode 1 and listened in order until I finally caught up. And everything like when Andy will say, "Dumb as a box of rocks," he made me feel even dumber when I listened to these episodes. So.
We met him in person, Anik and I, and he's such a great guy, everyone. And found out that him and I have a lot of stuff in common, and really, really enjoyed that. Thank you for dropping by. And like he said, in Disney, because we were at ICPA at Disney, so he came by.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you here. Thank you so much. So let's get going to Fred.
Fred Ramis. I'm a licensed customs broker. Got licensed in '97. One of the few or handful that passed it the first time. Was actually started in the business in 1981. Kind of one of those things where you didn't plan on being in the business, but had family members that father worked for a couple of different importers. You may have heard of Alcon Laboratories, Liquid Paper. He was traffic manager for those companies, and he got my brother into it, who started working for a company, Harper Robinson, and kind of stayed with him, Harper Robinson Circle. And then those guys, some of those migrated to what's now Expeditors, and started an Expeditors office and brought me on right out of high school. So did that, did some college, went back and forth trying to figure out, is that what I want to do? Family business. So actually just got in the forwarding part of it for several years, and everybody kept saying, take your license, take your brokerage test. I don't want to do that. I just want to move freight. There's more money in that. Well, luckily enough, people prompted me to take the test, and it's actually been a sort of a lifesaver. Sometimes I wonder if I just should have stayed in freight, but I think it's all pretty complex now. So I worked with that group for a while, and then once I left the Expediter group, I helped a couple different independent brokers build up the forwarding part while still learning and doing brokerage, building a good client base. And then a company up in Andy's neck of the woods, maybe a little bit more north, up in northwest Arkansas. It was a little private forwarder, and they wanted to build a brokerage. So I was able to build a brokerage department from scratch. Had some good support and backing from them. Everybody said, well, Fayetteville's not even a port, but there's allowances in there to, if it's in the same state, you go to the closest port, which the only one was Little Rock. And I think they had maybe 2 or 3 shipments a month. A month. So those guys weren't a lot of help, but that defaulted to Memphis, which those guys were great in helping building my whole knowledge of building a customs brokerage department and getting certified for ABI, getting all the permits. That's back when you had to get your local permit. Then from there, the pandemic came, and both my grown kids were actually living in Hawaii. So I said, I got to get out there with them. We're all coming to an end. So spent the pandemic lockdown in Hawaii. Both of them had backyards that backed up to the ocean. So it was terrible, but I survived. And
what a terrible lockdown! What a terrible lockdown to have.
So it was different. The only thing that really was a little challenge was the hours, because all my customers just kept coming from the East Coast. So I'm getting up at 3 a.m, just pounding it out and working with different importers, and the day ended a little bit sooner. So that was kind of cool. Then I got everybody kind of left and moved back to the mainland. And I got recruited by a little company in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And they were going through some changes, and kind of stepped in there and helped kickstart the brokerage department for them. Then I decided a few of us wanted me to maybe look at Miami, opening up something in Miami. And they said, well, you may not want to live there because, the one wrong move and you could get hurt or just too crazy out there. I said, it's crazy everywhere. You just got to know where to look, So my daughter had actually moved to Fort Lauderdale. So we're here now, and just doing some remote things. A few different people. I've got a handful of people I've got to make a decision on that want me to start their brokerage division for them. For some reason, this last year, everybody all of a sudden wants compliance people in their corporation. I'm seeing a lot of job posts. It's like, wait, where'd all this come from? Compliance was that other thing. You just build a manual and have it on the desk in case customs shows up.
It's like, what? We have to be compliant now all of a sudden? Like now?
That's that dusty part in the regs, Oh, yeah. Then I knew a lot of brokers that would write up a customs compliance manual and then it sits on the shelves. Each situation's different. So you just got to have some general but specific items in there. So that's where my journey's taken me. And I'm not even sure how I wound up listening to you guys. If it was, I listen to you guys on Spotify most of the time now.
I love Spotify. I think I taught some people what Spotify is through this because I think people would listen to it through online. And then I'm like, there's an app, right? Like you can have this on your phone. You can get a notification when we bring out an episode. It's kind of cool, It's easy.
Part is I usually sit in my car for 5 minutes trying to figure out my playlist before I drive anywhere, depending on the mood. But then if I forget what I was doing the day before, I'll just jump in the car and start driving. All of a sudden, it takes up an episode that I had stopped in the middle of. It's like, what am I jamming on? Who's this? That's Lalo, So you guys have been really great to listen to. I think I've told you before, Anna, you guys are great at letting the people talk, understanding them, making them feel comfortable. You've had some great experts, people that do things I didn't even know existed that help the trade. Being old school, it's like
a lot of you guys, or whoever. I know, Fred, you've done this. People send things to us like, here, look at this, look at what has come out, and it honestly has helped me. I'm sure Lalo too.
Right.
For me, it's a lot. I feel like people are so nice to me. They're like, let's just send her some articles. I think she would enjoy it. And I do. I love it because sometimes I'm like, what do I talk about? I don't know. The news has not told me anything. There's not been new changes. But then I talk to one of you guys and you guys are like, no, there's so much going on. And I love it because while I do this up front and we have, kind of figure out what we talk about behind the scenes, I struggle a bit, and having people tell me their issues and people giving me a little bit of intel, mostly that's on LinkedIn. It's so nice to bring that onto the show. And especially if you guys want to listen to something, then I like to ask other people about it, on the podcast and make it a little bit more like it's a tiny community that we have here. So thank you for sharing. And I'm going to move on just for time purposes to Margaret.
Okay. Well, I am Margaret Lang. I am a licensed customs broker. Also, did not pass on the first time. I think it was 3% pass rate the first time. I was devastated, but I did stick with it. I didn't let it, beat me. So I am a licensed customs broker, have been since, let's see my things right here, 2006. But throughout my career, as I think most of us, we kind of fell into this. It's not something you actually seek out typically. But I started out working for a manufacturer of medical equipment, rehab type of products on the export side. And then I moved I live in Milwaukee or near Milwaukee. So all of my experiences, some of our bigger Milwaukee companies. So I moved to Harley-Davidson and worked at Harley-Davidson for a long time, started out in the export side and then moved into what they were creating, an actual compliance department, and moved in there. And that's actually where I took the exam the first time. But I learned a lot about trade compliance and classification and all of that from my boss at the time, and it stuck, right? So I think with trade compliance, it either gets in you or it doesn't. You either love this or you don't. So it's interesting to hear Blair, who's not in this industry but still loves it, because it's something that you either just love or don't. So from there I went to Kohl's Department Stores, and at Kohl's Department Stores I managed the import side of the business, which was mostly what Kohl's did. And at Kohl's, I had a pretty good sized team. The one thing I really enjoyed at Kohl's is they really did embrace the need for trade compliance, which is kind of a rare thing at a lot of companies. But we had a pretty good sized team. I managed and built up and maintained a CTPAT Tier 3 level for the company, got us into importer self-assessment. We had a large first sale valuation program. We utilized a lot of free trade agreements. So there was a lot of work for our team and a lot of value we were bringing to the company. So I was always very proud of everything that we did there at Kohl's. And then from there, I am now at a brokerage firm in Milwaukee. So a long-standing 115-year-old customs broker and freight forwarder, and I'm on the compliance side and the consulting side. So, Fred, when you mentioned helping people create compliance manuals, I've done that for companies, and one I can say does actually annually go back and revisit and retrain on it. So that made me very happy, because I think that does unfortunately happen, where they kind of tick the box and they've got their manual and they move on. So I was pretty happy to see that they're actually implementing it and keeping it up and maintaining it, which is good to see. But I also, I was country before. Country was cool. I joke a lot right now about, we're trending and we're important all of a sudden. And one thing I thought was kind of funny this week is, for my job, I also spend a lot of my time reading and accessing all of the information I can on everything that's going on. And I work to try to help keep our customers informed. So writing articles and creating tools for our customers, but also helping our internal brokerage staff and compliance team informed on all of this, which has been insane. I actually have what I call my tariff twitch. My eye's been twitching for a couple of weeks now. But we got some feedback. One of the things that I've created to help our customers and internally is I've created a cheat sheet on all of the different tariff actions right now that we keep on our website. And we got some feedback that it's lit. So I was very excited about that. I'm like, not only are we trending and relevant, but we're now lit, which is, in people's terms. So definitely I was trade compliance before trade compliance was lit and trendy. So I'm excited about that. But I've been watching many of the episodes of Simply Trade. I love it. Like I said, I access and read constantly all of the different trade things that are out there. I also try to find every webinar and seminar I can attend. But one thing I really enjoy about the podcasts is just hearing people just talk kind of off the cuff and how it's really affecting them and the different experiences they're having. So although I think that the webinars and things like that are really important to get the content, it's really nice to hear people just talk about it, kind of like being at a conference and just having those conversations with people. So I think there's just a lot of value in just hearing people chat and talk about how all these things are affecting them or how they're implementing, how they're supporting their teams or their customers. So I really do enjoy that quite a bit.
I like that you mentioned like how you have different areas that you're focusing on. Like there's, you kind of a broker and then the compliance area and whatever. And there's so many facets to trade. And I think one thing that you kind of mentioned is you read a lot and you need to know about a lot of things. And I feel like that information might not be available for everyone, or people are just like, where do I get all of these things? Like I'm a broker, but there's also so many things that are kind of extended to me that I should be knowing about. And that I have to say the podcast is pretty good for, because we talk to so many different people, right, where even though we might not give them exactly what they need, but if we touch on something, they might from there say, oh my God, I need to attend a webinar that talks about this, because this is something I might be dealing with too. Not saying that we're going to give you all the information, but because truly we probably can, and it's not like a very formal webinar. But from there on, you can find a webinar, right? Or maybe we have people on that say, oh, we have a webinar about this. So kind of pitching, I guess, even though we don't have many pitches. But if you do want to pitch, guys, we have a website now. You can do a pitch and pay for it. But obviously, this is like a free podcast, and we very much value that because I think giving something back to the community creates more a sense of a greater community, and just I don't know, makes it a little more homey. Like there's so many things that you can pay for nowadays, which are great. But sometimes you just want to listen to something, or just get a little bit of information from people that are in the industry as well. And I think that's where the real beauty of it lies. But thank you so much for it.
And I think what's good about it too is when you're just listening to someone talk about how they've implemented it or how they've interpreted it, is you kind of take all that legalese out of it and make it a little more understandable. So one of the things that I try to do as much as I can internally within the company and the information we share with our customers is to try to put it in layman's terms, make it easier to digest and understand, because a lot of what I read all day long is the Federal Registrar. It's the executive orders. It's all of the things that are really, sometimes I have to just stop and print it out because I'm as old as compliance goes. But I print it out and just read it, because sometimes some of that content is really, it's written by lawyers for lawyers, right? So sometimes it's very hard to digest it all and then give it to customers who don't live and breathe reading the Federal Registrar and help them understand what's really being asked or what the expectation is or the regulation really means. Yeah. And one of the things I do is I had created a page on our website to try to do just that with each of the IEPA, the reciprocal, all of that, so that our customers can go there and just get kind of a simplified explanation of what it is with links and things like that. But, I also contribute to our website, our newsletters and things like that, and do that and try to just break it down into language that, the average, person working at, and when you work for a brokerage company, you're also working for a wide range of importers who have a wide range of commodities. So some of these programs or some of these initiatives might affect one customer a little and one a lot, and to just try to help them understand what it all means and how it affects them is always quite the task. But, it's nice, like I said, to listen to the podcasts and have people just talk through some of these things. It's helpful.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I'm not a trade expert whatsoever, but I get to talk to great people that let me know in easy words, but sometimes I'm still lost. Or even before I go into a show, I'm like, I need to know a little bit about this. And I recently, through a conference, actually made a friend, and I'll text her. I'm like, what do you know about this? She's a lawyer, and she's my age. Well, yeah, around that. And she'll just tell me, okay, imagine this. So she'll tell me in our words. I'm like, okay, I feel ready for the show. And it's so funny, because that's really what people need, is to have it in easy, understandable words rather than a crazy, order that you need to follow. And you're like, wait, what? The tariffs are not stacking anymore. And other tariffs are stacking, the new order that came out yesterday. So it's like, what do we do from here? Where do I go? But I love that you said that. Anyways, going to our last guest, Steve. Please tell us more about you. and
help us pronounce your last name, Steve. We don't want to mess it up.
Okay, let me try.
Oh, yeah.
Von Dobschutz. Von Dobschutz.
Von Dobschutz. Von Dobschutz.
Oh, is it? Okay, so it's not German.
You put the emphasis on the middle syllable.
Von Dobschutz.
Von Dobschutz.
Von Dobschutz.
It's very German, but I'm mostly Dutch.
Okay, I was going to say, because von is not very German. Well, I guess we do. In German, we say von, but that's different. And I know it's different in Dutch. Anywho, so what brings you into the industry? And
Well, I'm right across the pond from Margaret here on the east side of Lake Michigan, kind of in the Grand Rapids area. And I think, like a lot of folks, I stumbled into trade compliance. Got a job with a little company in West Michigan and in the shipping area. And somebody handed me a note card with some tariff classifications. This is back in the very late 90s. And said, here, you'll need these when you ship to England. And little did I know that 26 years later, I've gone really deep with this company. Love it. We make some great products and great people. Just turns out I happen to love trade compliance. I would have never guessed
really?
that.
Is that an honest answer?
Most of the time.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Okay.
My eyes glaze over reading some of the Federal Register stuff. But Anik, you've mentioned community a couple times, and that was I wrote down a couple of things because I tend to forget. And the first thing I wrote down was trade and compliance can sometimes be lonely, but simply trade is a regular reminder we have community. So it's interesting that I think at least 3 folks have brought that up. Putting what we do into human terms has been important for me. So I'm excited that I found this podcast probably 2-3 years ago. I don't remember who to thank for it, but kind of like Blair, I try and tell others in the industry about it. Blair, I don't know if you remember, I shook your hand when you came into ICPA in Orlando. I said, that's a pretty cool shirt. Where'd you get one?
Commented on the shirt, right?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Okay. Yes.
So where do I get one? And you said,
it's one of a kind.
Had it made, one of a kind. Yeah. All right. So you guys got you need a merchandise store coming up.
We do.
We do. Yeah. Look at my cup, but that's just me.
That's just her.
I'm just obsessed with myself, apparently. I'm kidding. Yeah, no, but it is my favorite cup now. My favorite war cup. Okay. Yeah. But no, we do need that. We do need some
merch.
Little merch. Yeah. To give out, maybe. Something fun. So I was going to ask, in what sense, so for the podcast, right? I mean, we create community, but how has this impacted you, like at conferences and stuff? Like in conferences, you obviously meet people. How does that impact you at the moment with, whatever we're dealing with right now? Because there's a lot happening, a lot of changes. And I think you said feeling alone is something that can make this industry make you feel, right? In a sense, especially sometimes you're in a company and the compliance department might not be the biggest thing and not everyone might care for you that much. And all of a sudden they care. But how has that created a more community sense in your guys' life? Because I know for us, the podcast really took off during this time. Just because people want more information. But how has that affected you guys? And not per se the podcast. I know the podcast has created community, but the whole past months, how have they affected your community sense in the industry?
I think for me, it helps me see things from others' perspective. I've gone really deep with the products and the industry that I'm in. I don't have quite the breadth of experience, and it gives me some perspective, which helps me relate to those that have questions better. So just putting it in better terms or changing the perspective. How is this going to affect us in the big picture? And you hear things from lawyers to other brokers to officials and see things from different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we've been trying to do. And unfortunately, I mean, I had what I wanted to do was a monthly check-in with CBP or government officials. And we had lined up a few people. And in fact, I think I had 5 or 6 months in a row lined up already. But unfortunately, when Trump took office, that all went away. They took away all public outreach. I don't know exactly how or why that happened, but I know I have like at least 5 or 6 folks from CBP that are a little bummed that they can't come on our show because they say they've seen their other coworkers that have come on our show, and they say that they feel a lot more like relaxed when they come to our show versus like going on TV or talking to somebody when they're being grilled about something. Because I tell people that's not what we're about. What we are about is more about dealing with a current situation. I mean, good or bad, that doesn't matter. What matters is let's give you the information and let's help you deal with it. Let's get through this. I always have a policy of not criticizing or commending, like elected officials, doesn't matter who it is, because of that. I mean, first of all, 50% of people voted for Trump and 50% of people did not vote for Trump. You know what I mean? And so I can easily I could cancel myself out with 50% of my audience, and that's not what we're doing. You know what I mean? Or I can, either way, whether I criticize him or I commend him, it could go either way, right?
Also, that's not, I think also it's not really the ideal, it doesn't matter.
Right, it doesn't matter. I mean,
it won't change what you have to do and
right.
how you have to stay compliant and what you have to follow, because just because you don't like it doesn't mean you can't follow it, right? So and I think a huge thing that we're doing is just awareness, because some people are like not even completely sure if they have to comply with some things. Does it affect them? Who do I call? Do I call a broker? Do I call a lawyer? To what extent can we help you guys or everyone in the industry to kind of make them aware of the situation and
right.
what they can possibly do to make it as easy as possible, because
right.
things are not easy.
For me, like I listen to what you guys are saying. You're always under the gun, and things are changing for you guys, like minute by minute. But you're always trying to be on top of stuff, and that, in a weird way, has helped me in my rehab part of this. Listening to you guys, I get little tips of how I can better myself to get back to where I was. So if that even answers the question in a weird way.
Yeah, for me, absolutely. The other day, as far as taking nuggets, I listened to the de minimis one. Was it Marianne? Yeah, it was great. It was great. And I kept stopping it and I kept like, wait, what did she just say? And I'd rewind it and I took a bunch of notes. So it really helped me understand the whole de minimis thing. Because as I read through it, and because I don't, we're not a broker who does the de minimis entries technically, but we still might be in the future because of this going away. But her just little tidbits and her knowledge of the history of it was excellent. And I kept, rewinding it. And I think I watched portions of it a couple times just to understand what she was saying. And I will use that then when I'm trying to explain it and create something for our customers, because our customers do some de minimis entries. So I thought it was great. But I've done that on a couple of different ones where I've just like, wait, what did they just say? Well, that's important. And, it's just something that then later on I can use to help someone understand. Because if they're helping me understand, I can certainly pass that on, right?
And thank you for sharing that. I love that. And I love that you said that you're going to use it and use it for parts and rewind and maybe go back to it. I think that helps us a lot. But I want to round this up a little bit because we're going a little bit over time with the last question to all of you guys. And just how do you move forward in this industry? How are you, maybe it's just one tip that you can give people to move forward, to, do things the right way and to maybe just get through it. Like, how do you get through your job right now?
I do learn new words like de minimis, which, 2 years ago, I had no idea what that was. In regards to yesterday's episode, you were talking with the woman who knew when the de minimis went up like every couple of years from, I guess, 50 cents to $200 now. But I think being proactive as opposed to reactive is something you guys probably wish you could do, but you can't. But know that your families and friends knows hopefully all know what you guys are going through and that they're there to support you. That's what I can do for, my partner. Cause I know what she goes through, and I'm sure you guys are going through all the same things. So that's pretty much what I've learned, how to be a better person with the people that are around me in the industry that you guys are dealing with and the headache you guys are getting or having. So
I've just kind of developed my own network, just colleagues and people I've worked with, LinkedIn contacts that may have or be involved in the same type of work. We have the same questions. Somebody will text me a picture of the 7501. Does this look right? Did I stack this right? The biggest thing is just where you're getting your news source from. We've had a few people on the show that have stressed that, don't read it just from here or from this post or something AI, it's like read it from Federal Register, all the official things that come out, and don't get frustrated, don't fight it, stay within our community, because it's an old cliche, we're all in this together, so you keep thinking, well, days are going to go away, we're going to go back to one tariff number for an item or or not. So that's the only way we keep moving forward. Just can't get upset about it, can't fight it, don't try to get around it. So just like I said, podcasts like this is kind of this nice community we have, and again, it's like that. I'm sure they say it for a lot of different things. We're all in this whole thing together. So,
I can go. Thank you for Blair for having patience and understanding for those of us who are living and breathing this every day. It's been difficult, but I would say how we're getting through it is, obviously just, reading everything you can. But there's a point where I think I've had to go and pick specific resources and stick to a handful of them, because otherwise it just becomes so overwhelming. So, that's one thing. But I also did sign up for a Truth Social account and a X account so I could keep track of the tweets and things. But, to Fred's point, those are just tweets. Those are just comments. And I've had to actually explain to people that that's just a comment right now. It is not a thing yet. It's likely going to come, and, have had to explain to people that we have to wait until it's in the Federal Register. Until it's there, it's just a comment. So, helping people understand that part of it as well. But yes, I do access the Federal Register every day, because that really, and the CSMS from Customs, because those are the two things that really make it official. Even the executive orders that get posted, I do check the White House website every day as well. So I look for those things of what's potentially coming, because it's potentially going to change by the time it gets to the Federal Register, or even to the CSMS, which is Customs side, which is important to brokers, of what in the end do we actually have to do to submit an entry. And that's some of the stuff that I'm trying to help customers with, and internally is just, starting with that tweet to the Federal Register, to the CSMS, and, what does it really all mean in the end? So it's you have to some degree filter out all the noise around it and try to focus on a few sources.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. The White House page is bookmarked on my laptop, and my friends, when I open my laptop, they're like, why do you have this bookmark? What are you doing on the White House page? And, we talk politics and whatnot. And they're like, why do you, and I say, you don't want to know. You do not want to know why I go on there. But
first Trump administration, it was the USTR website that I was on daily checking. But now it's Commerce and the US, TR and the White House. And then you have to be checking all of these.
And if you could just start explaining it to them, and they'll probably glaze over and never ask you again.
I could. They're like, you know what? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Even though nowadays, I do talk tariffs with my friends sometimes, and I'm like, hey, that got more expensive, right? Because you know why? And they're like, no, why? And I'm like, ooh, okay. I'll send you some articles,
here
or I'll
comes.
say, listen to my podcast. They'll listen occasionally, which is kind of funny. But anyways, we have our last tip of the day by Steve. So just go ahead.
well, I wish I could come up with something original for this. What do you do to get ahead? But, the smartest people are the others in the room here. And it's the network. It's the local connections. It's the LinkedIn folks. Stay up to date on the news. And then how do you interpret it? Yep, breathe. That's probably the biggest thing. And that's been the most helpful to me recently. I need reminders. I tend to get wound up on a few things. I need reminders. Stay calm. Just wait. It'll work itself out. We're in this for the long haul, not for the next 5 minutes. And this too shall pass. But the people have really a good sense of connection and kind of centering on those things. So that's I like I said, I wish I had something original to share there, but it really is.
There was.
There we go.
I like that, Steve. And I guess a shameless little plug and a segue into, we've listened to like a bunch of this comments and all of you all's comments that are about community and all that has resonated well with us. And here at Global Training Center, and I think we said it over the last few episodes, but we have a community, but for our clients. When our client purchases a training, they have the ability to ask our instructors questions and us and information like that. So what we've done is that we created our own platform on Global Training Center. It's coincidentally enough, it's called Trade Geeks, and that's our little community. And so we just thought, let's just open it up to everybody, whether you're a client or not. So we may actually start putting and having a channel in there for podcasts. That we decided that or not, I guess. But we were going to do a channel for podcasts so everybody can discuss the topic that was discussed on that podcast and maybe create that community offline. Well, actually, it's online, but I mean, off the podcast and into that platform.
Like what do you call this? Where people, what is it like? We compared it to something. What did we call? Where people ask questions and then everyone replies.
To like Reddit or
Reddit. It's like a Reddit for the podcast. And I love Reddit. I go on Reddit Discord, for anything.
Like Discord as well. So, like communities like that. So we're trying to build like that, like a group, like a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group, but it's in our site. You don't have to, create another account on another social media site or anything. It's literally on our portal and with your login and everything. But you should look at the show notes going forward, because that's where we'll have the link for y'all to join. And really, and then Anik is actually working on a bunch of monthly free webinars as well. Again, just to create more community, things like that. And we're hoping that this can all just come together and we can all get our little warm fuzzies here and we'll all collaborate. So.
Yeah. And I think I want to round it off with something we started with is Blair started this and you mentioned walks. And I'm just going back to it because I think walking can do a lot for you. When you're stressed, when you're going through something, when you can't figure out something that you need to get done, mostly it's because your brain is blowing up and it just has too much information, too many changes, too much stress. And I think walking can really help you, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, for an hour, it doesn't matter. Fresh air is always good. Or if you have a treadmill, I guess, but fresh air is probably best. So that's, I kind of wanted to say, if you're too stressed, just go for a quick walk, leave the office, do whatever you need to do, and then come back, sit down, and you'll figure it out, obviously with community and so many other tools. But I want to thank everyone again for coming. And that's exciting because I'm never on the Simply Trade
regular show
anymore, because I have my new show, which I love and I'm really proud of. So thank you. And thank you for sharing, because this was helpful. Getting stuck on this.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
thank you for having us.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show or would like to sponsor Simply Trade or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.